You should be able to develop an eye for finding out, or just for recognizing quality over mass-produced. Like a lot of the times, the meat from and whether it's pork or beef, when it's from a place that doesn't like when it's a lower quality meat, it could look watery. It doesn't look really like nice and stiff and firm. It could have like a kind of shine to it. Sometimes you get that, and if there's stress when the animal is killed. There are indicators for sure. But having said that, like even from you can get like sub-quality meat even from a local sustainable farm, and like the animal could have suffered some kind of shock or stress just before it was killed or whatever. I mean, you try to eliminate that as much as possible. You can't, now having said that, you can tell when something's really high quality. You can, if you, like, a lot of times you can,
what are we missing?
Especially with beef, something really well aged, really well marbled, it's very distinctive and very recognizable. Consumer be able to go up to a place, and that's why I really like the market, and I like what I do, because being able to talk to either the owner or a manager or someone in charge about the provenance of their food, right? And about it doesn't even have to be local. I mean, that's my thing. It's an Ontario boy, but even if you bring in your beef from PEI or from Alberta or whatever, as long as you know where it's coming from and why it's good. That's the most important thing as a consumer, to know that kind of stuff, or at least be able to ask the questions. And if the person you're asking can't tell you, then they should be able to ask someone who can tell you. And it's common sense. It's like in any industry, right? So yeah. I see more places like myself opening up, and not just butcher shops, but little food stores that have a focus on that. I think there's
Is there a movement towards?
I think the movement's already afoot. Okay. I think people are knowing more. I think more educated about it. It's all over television. Books are very popular. The Omnivore's Dilemma, Food Inc. Like this stuff is in our faces all the time, and some people just don't know about it, and that's fine. But even the people that are for now ignorant about it will come to light, and what's going on and everything. So and I mean stuff like the Listeria crisis a few years ago with Maple Leaf Foods. Stuff like that, people are starting to get really freaked out about where their meat comes from and how it's processed. So I see that happening. As well, I see in Toronto anyways, in downtown Toronto as well, I see a bit of a backlash isn't the right word, but like a bit of a turn away from like the larger grocery stores and the larger businesses and stuff. Like there will always be Walmarts, there will always be Sobeys and Home Depots and stuff like that. But in the small neighborhood places, I see it. Well, maybe it's just maybe I'm sheltered in Kensington Market here, but I really see a lot of more people coming out, more people looking to buy food, more people looking to buy and to support a small business and stuff like that. So it is a good thing. Okay, so there's a lot of talk around the idea of branding foods, right? And a lot of people like to throw around the words natural, organic, sustainable, local. I use the word branding because without trust, you don't really know. There is certified organic, and that is a process that farmers can go through if they want their product to have that labeling system on it. And it costs a lot of money to go through that process. So then the end result is that the meat, the product, is very expensive, and it's prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. Unfortunately, going back to what we were saying before about trying to make food affordable, even like really even good food. So I try not to deal too much with label that was certified organic, but what that does mean is that I have to build a trust with my customer, because I only buy from farms that don't use antibiotics or hormones in the raising their meats, and I only buy from like people that really kind of understand what I'm trying to do and have that kind of relationship, right? And have the quality in it, like a tasting quality too, right? It's very important to me. Just because it is local, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like sustainable and naturally raised and all that stuff. I mean, there's just downtown Toronto, there's the pig abattoir at Niagara and King Street. I don't know where they get all their pigs, but it's a lot of death down there. The type of food that I sell, the type of meat that I sell, is naturally a little bit more expensive than the bottom of the barrel, like the large factory-produced meat, poultry, pork, beef. It just has to be. It has to be because we're trying to sustain the farmer, right? At that level, and they need to make a living too. So it's a little bit more difficult for people on a fixed income, students, artists, to afford some of my stuff. But what I do find is a lot of people are coming in and making the choice to eat this style of meat, but just buying less quantities of it. So I mean, like, I have some steaks in there that cost like $40 for a 40-day aged Côte de Boeuf, which is a big prime rib steak, right? That's like my top of the line steak. It's probably one of the best things you've ever eaten. However, if you can't afford $40 for a steak, I also have like beautiful top sirloin steaks, and I cut it in a certain way that's a little bit different than a lot of other people. So there's no sinews, and I make kind of like little medallions of it, and they're like $3, right?
Yeah,
$3.50.
That's excellent.
So I try to accommodate other people. I also use a couple different farmers. Like, one of my farmers is a little bit more expensive because of the breed of cattle they use. Another of my beef suppliers is a little less expensive because he doesn't use the same. Like, he does some more crossbreeds. So he has a bit of a bigger farm, so he can manage to do that stuff. He doesn't do as long an aging process, which I can do in the store. So there's ways of getting a little less expensive meat. But at the end of the day, I mean, like, quality stuff is going to be quality, and people who want to get that naturally raised stuff, they understand that they're going to have to pay a little bit more. And actually, it's funny. When I opened, I started going around to like the major grocery stores, like Metro, Loblaw, Sobeys, and my prices aren't that far off from what they charge. So I figured, like I know Kensington has a reputation for, in Chinatown, Kensington, reputation for like this, where you go if you want inexpensive food. If you want inexpensive raw product, you can go here and get it on a dime. But as the neighborhood changes, as we change as a neighborhood, as a society, people are starting to understand that you can't get that all the time. You just can't. And unfortunately, I mean, I try to make concessions for people, for sure. And I mean, I always try to like work deals out for people as well. But so people are kind of quite fanatic about what they like in their burgers, like the meat that they like to use, and that I've had conversations with a few different people about this. My personal favorite cut to use is chuck. I find it's a well-rounded muscle. It has a good amount of fat in it, and it's a working muscle, which means it'll have more flavor. Now, one thing I have kind of discovered about ground beef to use for burgers is that the working muscles, and what we're talking about are the shoulders, cuts from the leg, and the brisket, stuff like that, they develop a lot more flavor because the muscles are constantly working, as opposed to the loins, which are very tasty, but the loins on the back, they're very tender, and they get a lot of their flavor from the marbling, from the actual fat content, whereas the meat from your briskets and your chuck have a natural flavoring to it, right? So that's number one, like meat from a working muscle, stronger tasting muscle. And then to have the right fat content is very important too, because if it's too lean, a lot of people like sirloin burgers and stuff, I find that's too lean. The fat carries the flavor. That's what I have is about a 20% fat content in my burgers. And yeah, I mean that's and then basic just salt and pepper seasoning. I know some people want to bind it with bread and egg and cheese, and that's good, and that can be done for flavor purposes. But I find it can also make the burger sometimes too dense, depending on how you're cooking it. But I know a lot of people are kind of worried about their burgers falling apart. But like just a well-formed burger. It doesn't need to be overworked. It just needs to be kind of patted a few times. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel I've been extremely fortunate since opening the shop. I've just been able to kind of do what I feel passionate about, and people responded well to it, right? And then people like coming to the store and seeing what I have, and they just enjoy the experience. And what that means is I've got so many customers now that it's hard to fit them customers in the store. I have 400 square feet. There's no room at all. Fit them in the store, or sometimes my meat as well. So, as I was saying before, as neighborhoods change, some businesses change, and while I've been lucky and good, and there's been a lot of positivity around my business, the old European meats that's been here for years, for 53 years, unfortunately decided to leave the market, to consolidate their business in their one location out in Etobicoke. And I say unfortunately because it kind of left a lot of people that live in the area, that were customers of theirs, a little bit in the dark, because I can only have so much room to carry what I carry. It is a little bit more expensive than what they're used to spending. So there's a couple of the butcher shops they've been going to fill their needs, but then for me that means an opportunity to grow into a space that is historic and an institution. And I really am looking forward to being able to move over to the old European meat store and expand my product line, so all my raw meats will be will grow, as well as being able to have a deli counter and do charcuterie, do all the patés and terrines and mousses and galantines and all that kind of stuff that I've made as a chef in my past, as well as prepared foods and stocks and jus and soups, things like lasagnas and stuff like that, and then do a hot food sandwich counter. So kind of really good hot sandwiches. We'll make fresh cut fries. Do a rotisserie. I'm getting a rotisserie in there, so there'll be rotisserie chicken available. Just kind of like really blow it up.
Sounds great. Yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah.
What's the date? Is there a date for that?
I'm looking for the end of July.
Perfect.
Right now, I'm just getting contractors together.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, everyone kind of gets things done when they're supposed to, and yeah.
Well, looking forward to that.
Excellent. Yeah. So much.